Welcome to the Living Proof podcast. We are your co-hosts, Brian and Evan, and tonight we are going to take a little dive into Evan's experience in a rehab facility. So with that said, we're just going to dive right into it and get Evan's experience. So first thing, was treatment necessary for you?
Yeah, so treatment was definitely necessary for me. Whenever I go back out and I'm using, I've been in and out a few times, and when I start using, I can't stop on my own. For me personally, it's either jail or rehabs. Something I have to remove myself from the substance, whatever it is, alcohol at the time, or if it's drugs, whatever it is. I've tried to detox at home on my own. Never.
What was that like?
It's fucking hell. You know what it's like, It's sitting at home. I have all the access, I can try, and I have tried several times to go that route. And it always ends the same way. I make it a day or two before I'm just so miserable and crawling in my skin to where I give in because I just can't feel like this anymore. So if I'm not getting locked up, I have to go lock myself up somewhere to separate myself from the outside world so that I can actually detox.
Yeah, and a good thing to think about there too is that it's not just you that needs the break. Like your family needs a break, your wife needs a break, kids probably need a break, mom and dad probably need a break, your people at work probably need a break,
Right.
So it's not just for us.
Absolutely, because my wife, she has been there to see me go through that a couple times, and just I can tell by the look in her face when she would see me in that state, like even she felt so helpless, like she wanted to be there and help, but there's nothing she can do.
No.
There's just not. So
Other than be supportive, like that's really all that she can do, or
Right.
check you out.
Right, and the last time that's what it was. The first time she felt for me, and the second time it was, you better be out of here before I get home from work.
So how old were you the first time that you went into treatment, inpatient treatment?
Inpatient treatment. Man, that was the end of 2016. So I guess I was probably 27.
Okay. And where did you go?
South Florida.
Why South Florida? Why not somewhere local? Is that not an option for you, or?
No, it would have been an option, but at that time when I reached out to my mother, is who I reached out to and told her that I had relapsed at that time. And then I had friends that all went to South Florida years before that, and they lived there. One of them was, several of them worked in treatment. One of them was a co-owner of the facility that I went to, called Satori Waters. And that was just who my mom reached out to. She called him and got it set up, and that was it. That's how I ended up landing there.
It's pretty cool how things work out the way that they're supposed to. Because I know you still had another stint in treatment after that. Mm-hmm. But so let's talk about what I'm getting at is your first experience in treatment. You met your wife in treatment.
Yes. Right? We didn't form a relationship like that
Right.
in treatment. That our relationship happened after treatment. But yes, that's where we met.
Right.
You know, my crazy Yankee wife from
Yeah.
Queens, New York. You know.
Yeah. So what was treatment in South Florida like?
So it was. I didn't go through detox in South Florida.
Okay.
So I detoxed on my own. Miserable, bro.
We don't recommend this.
No. And I think it was just pride and ego at the time, because my buddy, when he got me set up to go to treatment, he asked me what I was using, and at the time it was mainly heroin and alcohol, and I smoked marijuana at the time too. So I told him I'm going to fail for heroin, I'm going to fail for weed, and alcohol is going to be in my system. So he said, you're going to go do 7 days of detox. And I was like, no, I'm not. Still wanting to do it my way.
This
of
is
course.
a common theme.
Right. So he tells me, okay, so when the phone call started happening, the timeline might be skewed a little bit, but I think I had like 5 or 6 days before my flight. Like the flight was booked for me to go, but I still had like 5 or 6 days. So he tells me, you're either, if you show up and you fail your drug screen for opiates, you're going to detox. So I was like, no, I'm not going to fail for opiates.
This is your first experience in treatment?
This was
you
my
don't know what to expect.
first experience in
For
treatment.
detox,
Right. So I quit cold turkey at home. I'm still going to work at this time because I'm going on medical leave, to go to treatment.
There's nothing worse than going through
Yeah,
detox in a factory setting.
No, I'm in the union at the time, so my union rep knows, like, that everybody I work with knows, so they're actually trying to protect me because I'm just literally drinking bottles of bourbon on the line at work. You know what I mean? Because I'm so sick. Just trying to put something in me to take the edge off of this detox, and God, it was so miserable. And they're hiding me from supervisors. He's coming, duck. So I'm like dipping and dodging, and I'm like laying down at certain points, just feeling like I'm gonna die. It was so miserable. So I did that though, and at that time I'm trying to work through this detox, and I'm waking up trying to sleep, not really sleeping, but I would, at some point your body just kind of dozes off, but then I would come back to, and I'm just sick, and I would just reach over and I would have a fifth on the nightstand, and I would just turn it up laying in my bed and try to just pass out for some amount of time. But I showed up. My experience getting there was also crazy because I show up for my flight and it's winter time. So there's snowstorms, and I get to the airport 2 hours early before my flight to check in and get everything and just be ready. And then the flight gets delayed because of the storm that's coming in. They're like, just go home. We'll reschedule it for tomorrow. And then I'm like, no, I'm not leaving this airport, because if I leave, I'm not coming back. So I stayed in the airport for like 15 hours, drinking at the bar with random people, just anything I could do to stay busy in this airport. And then I finally get on the flight and make it down to South Florida, like 16 hours later or something. From the time I got in the airport, it was something. I was in there for quite a while, but I was like drunk majority of the time. And then even on the flight, I get in my seat, and this girl's sitting next to me, and she's asking me what I'm traveling to Florida for. So of course I'm like making up some shit. I don't even remember what I said. Maybe a wedding or something. But what I think I told her it was for a wedding, because next thing I know, she's buying us drinks on the plane, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm just like, oh man. But I showed up, and I was like 5 or 6 days off of the heroin, so I didn't have it in my system, so I didn't go to detox. I went straight into residential,
Okay.
but still detoxing, just at the tail end of the physical detox,
Right.
you know.
Okay. So what was, like, how long is the program there? Like, what kind of, is it like a 30-day facility? Is it like a long-term?
So it was a little different than the treatment center that I experienced here. I mean, it was very similar. It was actually, they're based off of South Florida recovery.
Right.
So it was a 45-day inpatient, and so I went straight into a PHP setting, where we were on a dead-end street, a little cul-de-sac, and there was 5 houses. So there was 2 houses for men, 2 houses for women, and then the house in the middle was a community house, so we could all interact together and hang out there. So it was 45 days of PHP there. So we, went to clinical. We got in we woke up every morning, got in the vans, drove to a clinical building for groups and one-on-one sessions and all of that, Monday through Friday. Saturday, Sundays was, like Saturdays, we went out grocery shopping. They gave us like $75 a week for groceries, and then you could pay more out of pocket if you wanted, but the center gave you $75 a week.
It's pretty sweet.
Right, so they taught us how to grocery shop and try to meal plan and do all these things. So it was definitely not what I was expecting treatment to be, and it was a lot of fun as well. Like,
Did you at any point realize when you got there that you put yourself through all that detox hell for no reason? That you didn't have to? I'm assuming they had like a medical detox there.
yeah, they had medical detox, but I didn't know anything about it. And
Right.
they did tell me, you'll come here to detox and we'll medically detox you. But I guess I was that stubborn. And I was like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
I got this. But it was really good for me. It was a really cool experience to have, and then on Sundays, because it wasn't like I was just locked in this facility and I never got to leave. We left every day.
Right.
We had this whole cul-de-sac that we couldn't leave the street, but we had basketball courts and we got to just roam this whole street pretty much.
So it wasn't a feeling of being institutionalized?
No, I wasn't like locked down. I could come in and out of my house as I pleased. We had a curfew. We had to be in our house every night by like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that. So it was not what I was expecting, Sundays they would take us on different trips, so we would go airboat rides through the Everglades, and or bowling, or we went to actually see the Gator Boys one time, the old TV show, the Gator Boys, and watched them do gator wrestling at their farm.
What is the Gator Boys?
It was a TV show where they would go catch wild alligators, but they also had
Sounds awesome.
a alligator farm. So,
Right.
and there was one point we went to Florida Atlantic University and we did this giant like Ninja Warrior course and jumping off of 30, 40 foot telephone poles with harnesses on. Like, we did a lot of cool shit. So it was not what I was experiencing or expecting,
Right.
All
right, so when you left there, did you do anything after you left there? Or did you just go home, or like what's the transition like from a place like that?
So after I did the 45 days there, I was supposed to come back home. I wasn't set up to do anything else in Florida. But as I got to the end of that 45 days, I wanted to stay a little longer. So I went over to a transitional living they also had the next phase of their program. It was like an old hotel. One side of the building was men, the other side of the building was women. So I moved into this hotel it was called the Hamptons, and it was such a shithole. It was.
They tried to church it up.
Oh yeah, they churched it up. It was called the Hamptons, and it was really, really rough. But it was cool, you know. So I think I was.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think I was in there for 30 days, and then I flew home. I did 30 days in that part of the program and flew home, and I was here for maybe 12 hours, and I was in my car driving back to the transitional living phase, because when I got here, I felt like I was still missing something at that time, and the anxiety was through the roof, and I had been in this comfort zone for a couple months at that point, you know, and I just knew at that time where I needed to be was back in Florida, so I drove back and went into that transitional living again, and I ended up being down in Florida for like a year, you know, in that transitional living phase, working in Florida. I had a job there. I'm still on medical leave from my employer in Kentucky at the time, but, you know, living life in Florida at that time.
Mm-hmm. That you just answered the question I had. I didn't know, like, if they had certain restrictions on you or certain rules that you have to follow. You got to get, a lot of places say, you know, you got to get a job within this many days, or you got to start paying rent, things like that. So a way of getting you used to, you know, normal life, things that you're going to have to do once you get out of treatment.
Right. So, and it was really cool what some of the things they did there. So for the first 30-ish days that I was there in the transitional living, you had to pay rent, but you didn't have to start paying rent until after 2 weeks. They gave you time to get a job,
get a paycheck, yeah.
Whatever it was. So, but at that time I knew I wasn't staying, so I wasn't going to go get a job for a couple weeks. I think my mom paid the couple weeks of rent that I owed before I left. But then when I came back, I still had no plan, right? When I came home for like 12 hours and was like, I got to get out of here. So the next morning I drove back, and what was really cool was I got there and I'm telling them, like, hey, you know, I got to get a job. I'll have to pay rent. And they're telling me, don't worry about it, like, don't stress. We're going to give you some time to get, you know, so you can get out and find a job and get settled. And I think it was like a day or two later when the lead tech there, he come to my room and he was like, hey, just so you know, your rent has been paid for a month.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, what do you mean? And then come to find out, he paid my rent for me.
The tech did?
The tech did.
Man.
For a month.
I hope he got Employee of the Month or something.
Yeah, he was such a good dude, you know, so it was really cool though.
And this isn't someone that you had a relationship with before going there, or it is?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
I met him when I was in the PHP portion.
It's a God moment right there.
So, you know, he believed in me and wanted me to be there, you know.
Okay. So how long in total were you in Florida? So when you after coming home and then going back, what was the length of stay in that transitional living at that point? Or how long did you stay there?
When I went back?
When you went back, how much longer did you stay in Florida?
Probably another 8 or 9 months.
Okay. And then from there, back home?
Back home. And yeah.
Was it any different after that 8 or 9 months when you came back home than it was the first time? As far as like the anxiety and, you know,
yeah,
you got
definitely. You know, I had some time under my belt and got to do some work. I had a sponsor in Florida, and was working the steps and doing something about it,
Right.
you know. So it was a little easier when I came back, and coming back to work, you know, I came back home and still had my job that I was on leave from with the union. So I went back to work at that time, and that was about it though.
What do you mean that was about it? Like, that's where you just stopped doing what you were doing, or because you just left it all in Florida?
I pretty much left everything in Florida. So, like I said, while I was down there, for about the last probably 4-ish months, is where I had gotten into a pretty, serious relationship with my wife now. Or that's where we were together for probably 3 or 4 months before I moved back home. And then we stayed in a long distance relationship while I was here. And then the hurricane came towards the end of 2017. So she flew here to get out of the hurricane and was here for a week and then just never left. And now I'm stuck with her.
Right.
So, but again, I wasn't doing anything. It was pretty much work. And then she became pregnant shortly after that as well with my son, so.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know at some point after that, you had put together a significant amount of sobriety time. Was it at that point, or was there some relapses in between there before you put together like some significant
No, so
sobriety time?
my first real significant run in sobriety was well before I ever went to treatment for the first
okay.
time. Before I ever I used to get locked up quite a bit, and I got into a drug court program, and that was where I really put my best amount of time together. After the Florida treatment run that I had, I stayed sober, dry. I stayed dry.
Big difference.
And my timelines are kind of skewed, but I stayed dry. I guess it was at that time. I guess it was 3-ish years that time. But like I said, I wasn't doing anything. So me personally, it's hard to even say I was sober that long, because
Right.
once I left Florida, I left pretty much everything there.
Okay. All right. So you come back home, you put together like 3-ish years, somewhere in there, just white knuckling through life, basically, if,
Yeah.
I'm just assuming, but as someone who's done it himself, that's rough, so, there's obviously a relapse there, right, after that amount of time. You find yourself in another treatment center,
Yes.
right? So tell us a little bit about what that was like. And this one was local, correct?
Yes, this one was local, and it was a completely different experience. I get emotional even thinking about it, which, the treatment center was named after one of my best friends growing up. My son is named after him as well. So I went through the Robert Alexander Center, and at that, that place was already special to me. And what was crazy was the week before I went into detox, I was there handing out Christmas gifts to all the clients.
I've heard this story before.
Yeah, so my wife and I put these gift baskets together for all the clients that were there and went in at Christmas time, and we got to go in the facility and hand out gifts to everybody for Christmas. And I don't remember what day we did that on. It was right there the week of Christmas. And then my sobriety date was January 2nd of 2022.
But
So
you've been there twice, right?
yes, I did go before that for just a 4-day detox stay. Yeah.
Right. So your mind shifted on detox, right? You changed your mind about detox, right?
Right.
So, and what's funny is because we were there, I guess, like right at the same time. Like I was in residential.
Yeah, you were
If
probably
my
on.
math is correct, while you were in detox, or vice versa. I might have been in detox.
So
No.
let
sure.
me think back. So I can say I went there for 4 days for detox on Mother's Day of 2021.
Mhm.
Your sobriety date is March 7th of 21.
Right.
So I went in on Mother's Day. So you were probably at the tail end of
Yeah, because right after I got
Residential.
out is when we met.
is when we met at a meeting, right?
Yeah. So, okay, so you're handing out Christmas gifts while in active addiction,
Yes.
correct? Yeah. So, what was your mind at there? Like just trying to keep up the facade,
Just
Just
trying to
act like
live
nothing,
in
like
this
everything's normal.
trying to live this double life, you know. And
it's so tiring.
yeah, you know.
It's so tiring.
And that was when I went in there, handed out the Christmas gifts. That was when the weight got so heavy at that time of just carrying that bullshit, because I wanted to be done. I really did, but I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't stop myself. So that was where I started trying to figure out how I was going to tell my wife that I had relapsed again and I needed to go back to treatment. What that looked like, I didn't know with my current employer. I had so many things instead of just doing it, so it lasted a few more days before I checked in for detox.
Okay. And so, and what was that? What was your experience there like?
In detox this time?
Or just in the facility in general?
So the detox stay, I don't have much memory of it. I remember going in, our paths hadn't crossed yet, and since that first time we met early in 21. And then I remember I was so pissed off because all I wanted to do was lay in my room and be sick. Like, just let me be sick. And there was something happened about a kitchen knife was missing or some crazy shit, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, somebody misplaced a kitchen knife or something.
I remember we had to search everyone's room.
Right, so they were like, oh, from this time to this time, everybody has to be out of their rooms.
Someone threw it away, by the way.
Yes, I remember that. It was found in the trash.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm miserable, and I just remember you coming in, and I saw you come in, but I felt so shitty, I didn't even care. I was like, I know that guy. Yeah. And you ended up saying, hey, do you remember me?
Right.
And I guess I didn't really say anything. I just kind of gave maybe a grunt and a nod, but in my mind I was like, fuck him.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy. But so the detox part, I don't really remember much of it because it was just hell, just the pity party, the down on myself, and just sick, just trying to do whatever I could do in detox to feel better.
Yeah, so sick mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? The trifecta of sickness.
All of it. Oh,
Right?
yeah.
I just hate everything right now. Yeah, I can relate to that, man. So you get out of detox, right? You move over to the residential side. Do you have any like crazy rehab stories? Like, did anything happen where you're just like, what the hell is going on, right? Or that you just remember still to this day of you wish you could have recorded it?
So during this time, I guess it was still like the tail end of COVID. So I remember like my first 3 roommates when I got over there, all of them had COVID. So it was like you're in this room, and then I had to get moved because they've got COVID. And I remember getting switched around, so everybody's sick. There was drama. When I first got over there, was a lot of a younger crowd. Everybody was quite a bit younger than me. At the time, they were, 19, 20, 21. It was a younger group, so there was only a few of us who were, 30 plus at the time. And I had just had so much pain, and I was so ready to get sober that I tried not to engage with the younger crowd. But yeah, I mean, there's always just the characters. You know what I mean? The characters I had, and it was fun.
Were there any rappers there? There's always a rapper. I'm going to be a star.
So, I don't think there was in my group. I don't think there was a rapper, but there was a Mitch, who was so fucking funny, man. That kid was awesome. And my roommate at the time, once I got a roommate that moved in, and we were together, and for the rest of my stint there, and rest his soul, Mark,
yeah. R.I.P. Mark.
We ended up, and it was awesome to have Mark there with me because we grew up together, and I hadn't seen him in so long until he came into treatment, and it was awesome to go through that together. But Mark would play his guitar, and we would be in our room, and I would just be laying on my bed listening to Mark pick his guitar, and out of nowhere our door would fly open, and it would be Mitch, and next thing you know, he's just trying to freestyle, so it was so funny, just the songs he would come up with. And then we had a couple guys who, it opens your eyes to see how far drugs can really take a person, so we had guys, one of the guys that was there, he would come in talking about the alien spaceships trying to abduct him in the cornfields, and then, but he couldn't really comprehend much, and it didn't matter what you said to him. His response was always, "Yep, getting better."
I remember that guy.
At one point, somebody told him, and then another guy was freaking out in group, and he's just going on a tangent, and he's calling people out, and he's like, and this guy, you tell him to eat a bag of dicks, and he's just going to say, "Yep, getting better." I'm just cracking up. There's just so many characters, man, and and it was fun. We had a lot of laughs in treatment, and most people don't think that's what treatment is going to be. But I can tell you, I've been to 2 different treatment centers, and don't get me wrong, the beginning, yeah, I'm like, man, this sucks, but it ends up being so much fun.
Yeah, like looking back, right? I think that, and I've had a few experiences with it as well at the same facility, and it's not you're going to get out of treatment whatever you put into treatment. It's been my experience. It's like there's times to cut up and laugh, but there's also times to get down to business and be serious. If you can kind of balance that out and not worry so much about what's going on at home, what's going on at work, about my bills. And I understand like those things are stressful, but that's why they have case managers. That's why they have therapists and family therapy and things like that. Like those people at home, I wasn't paying bills anyways, and all of a sudden now, like I'm 8 days sober. I've got to be responsible and take care of shit. And it's just, if you can just accept treatment for what it is, it's like, do your time. Give your family a break.
But this time around for me, and that was my last time in treatment. So that was 3.5 years ago. But when I got there, I was so ready. I had went into treatment this time on my own. I wasn't running from prison, from my daughter's mother, from anything other. I was just ready.
You're done.
I was done. I had had enough at that point. And when I went in there, I even going into detox, I remember, even the director of the facility, he was the best man in my wedding. We've known each other since we were 6-7 years old, and we were thick as thieves. From the time we were little kids, and so even I had some, he brought me there. I called him and he brought me in, but I told him and the owners, because at that time I had insurance, but we had just switched insurances, so my insurance didn't cover it, so they scholarshiped me into their facility. And I told them, you will not regret it. If you give me this opportunity, I'm ready. You won't regret this. So they gave me that opportunity to come in there. And I just took it, I took complete advantage of it, as far as I went to group. I showed up to groups. I was early to group. I had my certain seat that I sat in every group, every day, in the corner. You remember. And that's where I was at, and I participated in the groups. I had some one-on-one sessions.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. I got to do some family therapy. My wife got to come in, and we got to work on some stuff and have someone there so we could set some boundaries. And, I did everything I could, and I never used the director. I never threw his name around as far as, well, if I don't get to do this, I'm going to talk to him. And, I was just another client that was there.
Yeah, because that gets you nowhere.
No. Doesn't matter who you know when you're in there. They're not going to give you any special treatment.
Yeah.
So I just came in. I knew what I was there to do, but I also knew that the real work starts after treatment.
Absolutely.
So, but while I was there, I was going to soak up everything that I could and get better in every possible way that I could.
Well, let's be real. If you're not willing to do that when you're in treatment, you're not going to do it when you don't have someone telling you where to be, telling you what time to eat, telling you what time to go to bed. When you're out in the real world, if you haven't started building at least some habits of responsibility and discipline while you're there, you're not going to do it when you get out in the real world. Why would it? Why would anyone?
Now we get the opportunity to go back into this treatment center and give back, so, and you've heard me, pretty much every time I go in there, I thank the clients that come into the meeting we bring, because it's not mandatory. When I was there, it was mandatory. Now it's no longer mandatory. So, sometimes we only have 5 that show up out of the 40 people that are there. And I always thank them for coming, and I always let them know that, because if you ain't got shit else to do while you're in rehab.
Right? That's why I've never understood it.
So yeah, if you're not willing to come for an hour because at that facility, you're locked in.
Right.
You're there. So if you're not willing to come in there for an hour, are you really going to be willing to get in your car or call an Uber, walk, whatever you got to do? Are you really going to be willing to go to meetings and get involved when you get out?
Right. So you and I are both members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And there's one, and that fellowship and that program can give you a lot of things. But there's one thing that it can't give you, and that is willingness. Right? Willingness to take a chance, willingness to raise your hand and ask for help, willingness to go to a meeting, willingness to do step work, and if you don't have that, you're screwed, right? And it sounds like you had that from day one. I'm willing to do what I have to do, regardless of would I rather be in my room taking a nap? Sure, right? I'd rather just take a vacation, but that's not why we're there.
Right.
And it sounds like you took it, like you said, you took advantage of all the resources that were allotted to you, and the people from working there, I worked there for just under 2 years as a behavioral health tech, and the people that do things like that are the people that typically succeed. Doesn't mean they always succeed, because you have to do it, like you said, once you leave there. But if you leave there with no foundation, you're just the world's gonna be too big and too scary for you. It's just gonna you're gonna fall on your face.
Right.
And let's talk real quick about some relationships that you made there, because it's not just about getting knowledge and learning how to cope with life. And like I know for a fact you made a lot of friendships there that you still have today, people that are still in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. From our relationship started there, and now you're my best friend. And today we even get to work together. We get to do this podcast together. So you've remained a constant in my life from that last treatment stint. Several other guys from that facility that worked there. We had this tight group. Some people have moved on. One of them is in Virginia now, but still constant contact with him. When he comes back home, we always get together.
He brought us tacos.
Right. Yeah, just a few weeks ago. Another one that was played a big impact on my life, introduced me to refuge recovery and Dharma, and then in turn I ended up sponsoring him. 2 years? I guess I was probably a year and a half sober, and he relapsed, and when he went back through treatment, I got to sponsor him and take him through the steps. So there's been several guys, and not my current sponsor, but my sponsor before him, I met at that facility. So I had a lot of lasting relationships, even not as close, but with some of the nurses. The whole staff, and it was a great experience. It really was.
Yeah, so I guess we can wrap this up and just kind of throw out there that if you are someone who is constantly relapsing and can't stay sober, and you're considering go to treatment, please do so. It's a great experience. You can get long-lasting sobriety started there. Start a foundation. And if you have any questions about that, or if you guys have any ideas or suggestions for us of what you would like for us to talk about, please leave it in the comments section. Send us a message on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. We'd be happy to hear from you guys.
Thanks, guys.